Lookup and reference functions are the most useful Excel functions. And the most popular out of all of them is the VLOOKUP function. I will explain how and when to use them using a few simple examples in which a small amount of data is used. In reality, these functions are most often used and are most useful when working with tables with a huge amount of data. Example 1. Worksheet Lookup 1. In this example, there are two tables with data for 20 and 18 products. The aim is to enter the prices from Table 2 into Table 1. Click on cell D4 and then on the function symbol. All the lookup and reference functions are in the category with the same name. In the window Search for a function, type in look and hit the enter key. Then choose VLOOKUP from the window below. Then enter the following data. The lookup value is what we are looking for. In this example, it's the product's name, which is in cell B4. The table array is where to enter the data with the table that contains the data that needs to be searched. It's convenient to choose entire columns. The column index number is where to enter the number of the column where the data needs to be found. In our example, it's in Table 2, which has 2 columns, and the price is in the second one. In the range lookup cell, enter the digit 0 to perform an exact search, or the number 1 for an approximate search. In this example, we'll use 0. I'll explain how to perform an approximate search in later exercises in this lesson. When entering the area to be searched, we should use absolute references so that the range will not change when copied. In this case, we do not have to worry about it, as we have selected whole columns. We can select whole columns when there is nothing with similar data above or below the table in which we are searching. This convenient solution can be used in most cases. The first column in the area where the data will be searched must contain what we are looking for. In this example, they are the product names. If the table layout is different, it must be changed before using the VLOOKUP function. Then copy the function into the cells below with a double click. As 2 products were not found in Table 2, an error symbol is displayed in these cells. This symbol doesn't look good, but you can use conditional formatting to hide it, which I explain in the conditional formatting lesson. If one of the product names in Table 2 appears twice, only the value of the first instance is found. However, Excel doesn't inform you in any way that a situation like this has occurred. Example 2. Worksheet Lookup 2. Now we'll practice using the VLOOKUP function in Table 1, using it to download the prices from January and February, which are in Tables 2 and 3. First, the function for January, prepared in exactly the same way as the function from the previous example. Copy this function up until row 24. Then change the last of the functions, cell E24, so it takes data from the third table, and not the second. Then copy the function to the end of the table, and the exercise is done. Example 3. Worksheet Lookup 3. After analyzing the solution from the previous example, we can think about whether it's possible to do it faster or not. In this example, we'll continue using the tables from example 2. If we treat tables 2 and 3 as one table, the price in January will be in the second column of the combination of tables, and the price for February will be in the fifth. Before Table 1, add the number 2 for January's rows and the number 5 for February's. Now it's possible to enter the search function in cell E4. The function will input data from the second column when there is a value of 2 in column A, and input data from the fifth column when there is a value of 5 in column A. After copying the formula into the following cells, all the costs were found. To avoid the necessity of entering the numbers in column A, combine the VLOOKUP and if functions. The if function for January gives us a result of 2 and 5 in all other cases. This method is only possible when the sequence of products in both tables is the same. To make sure, enter the formula equals G4 equals J4 into cell L4 and copy it to the end of Table 3. If the result in every cell is true, then it confirms that the sequence is the same. Example 4. Worksheet, lookup 4. In this example, we need to search for prices using two criteria, product name and month. The VLOOKUP function can only search using one criterion, and we have two, so we combine them to make one. In columns A and G, add the criteria by using the ampersand symbol. To make sure the sequence is the same, put the product name first and then the month. Now, instead of two criteria, we have one, and we can use the VLOOKUP function as normal. In the same way, it's possible to search for more criteria, combining 3, 4, or even more criteria, and then using the VLOOKUP function. I used to prepare a report that used the VLOOKUP function with 4 combined criteria on a regular basis. The report worked quickly and efficiently. Example 5. Sheet lookup 5. The HLOOKUP function works in the same way. The only difference is that it searches horizontally, which is what the H in the name stands for. So it searches the subsequent columns instead of the rows, which is useful for tables where the data is placed horizontally. Let's practice this function using the example already known to us by adding the prices of the products from table 2 to table 1. All the arguments of the HLOOKUP function are input in a similar way to the VLOOKUP function. What we are looking for, where we are looking, which row we take the results from, and using 0 for an exact search. After pressing OK, copy the function into the other cells in the table. You should get the result as shown. Example 6. The most common problems. Sheet, lookup 6. Quite often, Excel can't find data that we think should be in the table, even if it's obviously visible. Enter the VLOOKUP function in the usual way for these 4 finished stock codes. A common comment by Excel users is, "Not available, but I can see they are here, stupid Excel." Often, numeric data is entered in Excel in text form, and changing the cell format from text to number doesn't help the situation. It typically happens when data has been imported into Excel from another program or downloaded from the internet. The fastest way to fix this problem is to type the number 1 into any cell, copy the cell, then multiply it by the column containing the numbers. The VLOOKUP function has now immediately found the relevant data. There is still the problem of codes which are not numbers. In this simplified example, it's easy to spot the product we are looking for, but in a real table containing thousands of rows, the find tool should be used to determine which cell contains the problematic code. After finding the right code and inspecting the characters, there seems to be an unnecessary space before the letter F. After removing the space, the VLOOKUP function is able to find the code no problem. In the second instance, the space is at the end of the code. Using the Replace tool, clean up the data by replacing all spaces with nothing. Before replacing, remember to select an appropriate range to avoid spoiling the column headers or other text. If there is a small difference in product names, the VLOOKUP function won't work. In this example, I've only shown the most common problems. Example 7. Sheets, lookup 7, and lookup 7a. In this example, we'll complete the table on the lookup 7a sheet with data from this table. The tables differ in structure for both the rows and the columns, and we only want to use one formula. In the table containing the data, in addition to the months, there are also the quarters. To solve this problem, enter the corresponding column in the source table for each of the months into the target table above the months. For January's data, we will look at the second column of the source table. For April's data, we'll look at the 6th column. We skip one because the quarter data is in the 5th column, and we are not interested in that. Then enter the VLOOKUP function. The number of the column is the number from the second row. Add absolute addressing to make the formula suitable for all table cells. It's now possible to copy the formula like this into the entire table. You can hide the numbers in the second row by colouring them white, or by hiding the row. Example 8. Sheet Lookup 8. Again, the task is to find the price of the products in Table 1. The prices are displayed in two tables. In example 3, I showed you the solution to this problem when the order of the products in both of the tables is the same. The solution I'm going to present in this example works regardless of the sequence of products. If we want to search several tables, and the choice depends on a parameter which occurs only in a few values, we can use a combination of VLOOKUP and if functions. This formula in more simple terms means that when the word January is in cell C4, it will look in columns G and H. Otherwise, it will look in columns J and K. As you can see, the result of the if function can be a range, not only numbers or text. The result of the if function is then used in the VLOOKUP function. If the month parameter takes 3 values, for example, the next if function has to be used. If the parameter were to have more than 4 values, it wouldn't be worth nesting so many if functions. It's faster to adopt the solution proposed in example 4, combining several conditions into one. Example 9. Sheet Lookup 9. Until now, we've only used the VLOOKUP function to search for exact values. But this function can also be used to search for values in specified intervals. In such cases, the VLOOKUP function only works correctly when the source table is sorted into ascending order. In this example, we want to find the proper discount value based on the value of the order. The table with the thresholds of orders and the amount of the corresponding discount has 6 items. The rebate is granted if the order amount is at least as much as the beginning of a given range in the table, and no more than the beginning of the next interval. In the range lookup, we enter 1, so that Excel finds the closest match as written in the description of this function. Closest match does not mean the nearest value, but the value equal or above this threshold and below the next threshold. This will become clear in the examples. For the amount of 9,999, the rebate is still 2%, despite the fact that the closest number is 10,000. I would like to emphasize once again that the function only works correctly when the list is sorted in ascending order. Copy the formula into cell F14. An incorrect value is found in many cases, due to the fact that the list has not been sorted. A similar example in the same sheet deals with the search for a grade from an exam, depending on the number of points scored. Let's do it to gain a little more experience. Example 10, sheet Lookup 10. The lookup function has a huge advantage over the VLOOKUP function, in that it can not only search in columns to the right, but also to the left, or even in a table that is somewhere else altogether. This function belongs to a small group of functions that have several lists of possible arguments. The first step will be selecting the first of the two options. We are looking for product 17 in that list. And we want one of those values. Copy this formula down. Unfortunately, the product names in table 2 were not sorted in ascending order, and despite the fact that product 11 is in the table, it wasn't found by the formula. After sorting by the product column on the right, the prices of all the products have been found. Example 11. Sheet Lookup 11, simultaneous vertical and horizontal search. In the last example of this lesson, we will search in both the rows and the columns at the same time. The top table of this sheet contains source data with information about the number of doctors visited by medical representatives in 10 regions, and the doctors are shown by their specializations. We were asked to copy the data into a table that has a different layout of headers for both the rows and the columns, and only includes selected regions and specializations. We could use 7 VLOOKUP functions, a different one for each of the regions. Sorting the source or target table is not an option, because we have a different number of regions and specializations in each of them. We'll use the index and match functions. Let's start slowly by determining the position of the specialization in the source table using the match function. We are looking for cardiology on that list. By using the match type 0, it will find the first value that is equal to what we are looking for, and the source table doesn't have to be sorted. Cardiology is 4th on the list. Now we have to do the same with regions. Match function, list of regions, and the result comes back as 4. Now the index function. For the index function, select the first of the argument lists. In the array, enter the range of the source data without row or column headers, which is C4 to L8. The row number is the first of the results of the match functions. The column number is the second. The index function returns the value that is in the 4th column and the 4th row of the array. Cardiology, the result is correct. Now copy the match functions into the index function. Add absolute addressing so that the formula can be copied into all of the cells. Full absolute references for the array. For the list of regions, only use a $sign before the row, as the columns should be changeable. For the specializations, only use the $sign for the columns, as the row numbers should be changeable. Finally, the full absolute addressing for the lists of specializations and regions. After copying the formula into all of the cells, the correct data is found. To be absolutely certain, we can check one of the values. For example, the last one. Region 1, Urology, 72, 72. Match functions in separate cells were only used for explanation purposes, and users with some practice directly input them into index functions. You can find out more about lookup and reference functions in the lessons Professional Reports and Advanced Professional Reports. One of our subscribers wrote, "What previously took me 8 hours is now possible in just 1. Send the link to this course to your friends. We're sure that they will appreciate your recommendation."